Thank you so much for staying with us here on the South African Morning, the weekend edition. Let's move on to the story now because the race for the next ANC Youth League Executive Committee is underway. The Youth League will finally hold its National Congress on the 30th of June. It hasn't convened a conference for at least 8 years due to leadership instability. To discuss this matter further, we're joined now by one of the candidates, Avuyile Qabadia. Avuyile, thank you so much for your time. A very good morning to you and welcome to the show. Let's talk a little bit first about the past 8 years. I mean, we haven't necessarily convened an ANC Youth League that is able to champion young matters forward. In fact, you've got a task team now that is currently, convening the ANC Youth League for the past 8 years or so. Why should young people trust that the ANC Youth League has got things together at this stage? You know, what has been learned for the past 8 years where you couldn't convene and you couldn't even have Congress and you had a leadership crisis? What makes you think that you've got it right this time around?
Thank you very much, Faith. Well, remember, we are in the renewal process. The ANC took a decision to renew itself. And correctly, even the ANC took a similar path to renew the organization. And one of the critical areas for our renewal is an organization that is going to be trusted by young people. And the task that was given to the reconfigured NYTT is to correctly do that process of renewing the Youth League to make sure that it responds to the challenges of young people, of unemployment, the challenges of young people that are dealing with drugs, challenges of young people that are living below poverty lines. So those are some of the issues that we want to deal with. A youth league that is going to be able to provide practical economic solutions to the ANC and to the country. So I said those are some of the issues that we and of course that has to be done with the caliber of leaders, of young people that have requisite skills, that are mass-based and that are found in different communities of the country.
Do you think that you're relevant to young people at this particular moment in time? I mean, young people already, I don't want us to lie about this, young people already feel a little bit disenfranchised by the current status quo of politics in the country. In fact, if anything telling by, it's our elections, right? Every time we have a local government election or a national election, we see the numbers declining at an exorbitant rate, and a significant portion of those are first-time voters, or those voters between the ages of 24 to about 35. They're not participating in elections. That means that they feel excluded from the politics of the time. The politics of the time have got the current African National Congress that is the governing party, and you standing as the Youth League of the very same governing party where young people feel disenfranchised. Do you think young people will trust you? Do you think that young people will trust that you will be different to the very same ANC that they feel disenfranchised by?
Well, remember, some of us, I'll make an example of myself. I benefited from the free education of the ANC. I'm coming from a very poor background, Patawet, in the village called Zakwich. The ANC took an initiative to open doors of learning, and I happened to be part of those young people who benefited from the ANC up to my master's level. It opened an opportunity for me to go and study in China, Beijing, where I did my master's of commerce. And those are some of the achievements that make me not to be an ungrateful beneficiaries of the initiative of the ANC. And of
if I may just interject there, when you're saying that the ANC helped you benefit all the way to a master's level, there are about the country comprises of 60% of young people in the country, which means that we're sitting at about, 20 million or so, or if not, 40 million or so young people in this country that do not have equal opportunities like you, that are sitting with degrees and are unemployed and are at home, that are sitting with master's degrees that are unemployed that are at home. So as much as it can be you, and we appreciate that you are one of the examples, there are 40 million other young people that are sitting at home without the same kind of story to tell. So what do we say to them?
Let me take you through to the stats. Before 1994, black South Africans with access to education or financial in higher education was about 5.5%. As we speak, the percentage of GDP spent on financing black people, which is your NFS, other financial injection of the state to make sure that a black child is educated, is sitting at more than 80%. And that is a deliberate initiative to make sure that black people are included in the education system. And of course, there are consequences of that success, which is what we just spoke about, of many graduates who are then not employed. Then what are we proposing as the Current Youth League is an economic program that will make sure that the economy is growing such that those particular people who can't find employment are employed. A lot of short, medium, and long-term propositions to that effect. And one of them is to reindustrialize the economy of South Africa. And we believe that if we reindustrialize the economy of South Africa, we are going to absorb a lot of both the skilled and unskilled young people. And at the center of that for us is to stabilize the energy. Because once you stabilize the energy, you will then have a competitive country, you will then have a high-income country, because history and literature proves to us that there is a correlation between high-income countries and high energy consumption. And what we are proposing as the Youth League is an energy mix that is able to drive a certain economic program. So you can't then industrialize with a mix of energy systems that doesn't speak to that effect. And we are saying solar panels, wind turbines must be produced in South Africa. And for us to do that particular system, we need to have a stable baseload electricity so that we have a reindustrialized economy. And we are focusing solely on primary sectors, which is your agriculture, your mining, which is your reviving of the smelters and the likes. And we are going to make sure that the economy is growing so that young people can be employed.
Okay, I definitely hear you on that one about the energy mix, but you're saying the same thing that the African National Congress has been saying, and we all know that you can have the most fantastic plans. South Africa is not lacking in plans. South Africa lacks in implementation. So it'll be very interesting to see how that will translate, never mind from a mother body perspective, but to the Youth League perspective. Because the truth of the matter is, young people are listening to this conversation saying energy mix. Energy mix. Right now, we just showed you visuals of young people in Gauteng, in Nasrec, standing with a long snaking queue with degrees and diplomas in their hands, unemployed. We may have conversations about an energy mix, but as long as it doesn't translate to youth-owned businesses having a part and parcel within those PPs, right, within the procurement space, then we're having a fruitless conversation. If you're speaking here about how we're going to create education which is going to translate into employment, while already the visuals we showed you on the screen showed you that it isn't, right? We can say that we've been educated, but what is the point of an educated, young, unemployed graduate sitting at home? So if the mother body, if the African National Congress does not implement effectively, how do you make sure as the Youth League, our voice, right, with 60% of young people, our voice actually champions that change? What are you going to do so different?
Well, remember, Fred, some of us spent 3 years in a working model. We spent 3 years in a country that reduced its poverty by 80%. We spent 3 years in a country that is driving an economic program that shook the world, which is China. And I'm happy that some of the leaders of the ANC went to visit and see for themselves how that it's possible to change the economic situation we are under in South Africa. And as a Youth League, we are confident that we are one of the young people that are going to drive a program of young people, and we're going to sell it, an economic program, to the ANC. And we are not going to howl and insult them. We are going to have models work with all so what we did, by the way, we started visits to the think tankers of the country, your chief economist. We met with Wandile Sihlobo, we met with Ayabonga Tawa, and a lot of them, so that we draft an economic practical program that is going to change the life of our people. We are not talking slogans. We are proposing a practical program, of course, guided by the global dynamics that are taking place, your tensions between the China and the US and other geopolitics. But we are going to make sure that whatever models we are infusing in our proposals are practical and they are effective within the short to medium term.
Very quickly, in 30 seconds. And if the mother body does not agree to your proposals, then what do you do?
There is no way that you cannot agree on a proposal that seeks to change the situation you are under. So that's why ANC leaders are people who are reasonable, are people who can think, are people who understand that when you bring a solution that is scientific based, of course they will have to agree. because they are well educated and they know that we want to drive a practical program to change the situation of young people in South Africa, to change unemployment, to change poverty, for young people to have hope that in this country you can live a happy life where all your needs are taken care of by the state and of course, by the industry, where the industry will be able to invest their money because the environment will be favorable by government.
I definitely hear you. Avuyile Qabatiya, we have to leave it here this morning. I don't know how many young people are waking up happy. A lot of them are waking up unemployed and educated. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of South Africa. So we'll see. Obviously, you've got that Congress that is coming up a little bit later on in the end of the month. Yeah, and we've got that conference coming up at the end of the month. Of course, we're going to be seeing the election of the ANC Youth League NEC. And of course, that was another NEC candidate there, Avuyile Qabatiya, just talking to us a little bit about some of the plans that they've got in place if indeed they go into that NEC seating.